All right, so hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Off the Post. I'm Courtney filling in for the red cap today. Which means I also have to hit the button, so I forget if people are talking and the screen's not on them. I probably forgot, and that's my bad. I'll try to remember to change the camera, but I always seem to forget to do that when I'm hosting. But welcome. We're gonna do our second to last NWSL preview with Orlando Pride, the newest expansion team in the league, and going to talk a little bit about the women's national team. We're kind of in between games. They had a game the other day. They have a game tomorrow, so we'll do a little review preview for them, and we'll kind of send everyone on their way. But we'll just check in. We have Jackie and Jen here first. So, Jackie, what's been going on since we've seen you last?
Um, Working and some CPR training, so that was like 4 hours of just annoying talk, but it was, needed, refresher. So, yeah, just working a lot and watching soccer, and that's it.
All right, and Jen, what's been going on with you recently?
Well, currently I'm actually enjoying a weekend home alone. My roommate is out of town this weekend, so that's been nice doing that, doing some work, watching some foodie. So,
That's always good. It's always good to have some roommate free time.
yes.
Excellent. All right, so we're gonna get right into it. We're gonna start off talking about the Orlando Pride, our newest expansion team, kind of affiliated with the Orlando City FC. They have a lot of the same, front office staff, operations, things like that. So that's awesome. We don't really have anything to say about them from last year because they weren't here last year. So we'll just get some thoughts. I know we've probably talked about this before, but just some thoughts about how we feel about them joining the league. Start with Jackie.
Well, one, I think it's really exciting. I know they have a lot of big names: Alex Morgan, Ashlyn Harris, and Tom Sermani, the coach. I think he's a really crucial part of, whether or not they're successful in their first season. I think the fans in Orlando are really excited. That's a really big soccer town, I think. At least it's becoming one. So I think this will be a really exciting year for them.
Jen, what are your thoughts on the Pride in general, and specifically Tom Sermani being the coach? I know a lot of people have kind of been wanting to see him in the NWSL, and here he goes with a kind of a brand new team he's been able to pick from and build himself.
Yeah, I think being a club coach will certainly pay off better for him than being a national team coach. I think he was kind of a little out of his depth as the U.S. coach. It was a situation that I don't think it really reflected at his ability as a coach, because when he was in WSA, he took over a New York Power team that was bad. I mean, they made Boston the last couple seasons look good. They were that bad. That's not an exaggeration. This team was really, really terrible when he took it over. And he brought them from dead last in the league, giving up 2-3 goals a game, to one that was within an inch of getting into the playoffs in the last season of the WSA. And I think a lot of that was due to him joining. So he definitely has the pedigree. That and him taking Australia from also Rand's, kind of punching bags to a team that was on the cusp of being a top-tier team. So his coaching credentials are certainly deserving of the respect and attention that he's getting. So I think with him being able to form his own team, bring in the players he wants to bring in, I think it'll be a very decent season for them.
Okay. Yeah, I think you guys made a lot of good points. I don't know. I think Sermani still kind of got like the raw end of the deal with the U.S. national team. I think that his, who knows if he would have turned it, what he would have done with the team. But it kind of seems like, oh, they had one bad run in the Algarve, and oh, you're out. Okay, bye. I know there are bigger issues in that, but I don't. Again, I agree that I don't think it actually like reflected his his coaching and things like that. So it is good to see him back. Also I know a lot of people have been looking forward to trying to have more Australian players in the league. And we've had a couple more come over, and obviously like he's a good catalyst for that just because of his ties to Australia and the players on the national team. So it's really interesting to see kind of how the roster has been built. We'll talk about now. I guess they have a really part of me feels like they might become the Portland of like the new Portland in the sense of they have so many like good players that people are probably just like, why? How is that possible? But let's talk a little bit about some of the players that are on Orlando. Let's talk about some of the players who you think are going to make a big impact in the upcoming season. We'll start with you first, Jen.
Well, I think a lot of people are talking about, Alex Morgan, Ashlyn Harris, a lot of the big names, including practically half of last year's Flash roster. Yeah, a couple of those.
Sad.
A couple of those are killing me. Why? That's a topic for another show. One name that I'm actually interested in seeing how she goes that hasn't really been talked about is Laura Holloway, central defender, got size, really good. She and Catley have been club teammates before. They were part of the Melbourne City squad that basically demolished the competition. So having not just the Matildas link but also the club link will, I think, help Orlando gel a little faster than I think maybe some people would have expected. I'm also curious to see if Kaylin Kyle can actually step up because, she gets a lot of buzz, a lot of attention, but I haven't been terribly impressed with what I've seen from her in any of her stops in the NWSL. Well, maybe for a short spell in Seattle when she was playing center back for some reason, I don't know, and did okay there. So those are the two that I'm kind of keeping my eye on the most.
All right, that sounds good. Jackie, who do you have your eyes on as far as impactful players for the Pride this season?
Yeah, for me, as you guys mentioned, they grabbed a lot of Flash players, a Sky Blue player, KC player, Houston player, so they have kind of a mix of the bag. I'm looking forward to actually one of their draft picks, Samantha Whitman, the defender. I heard a lot of good things from her, and she was picked very high. And also Cami Levin from Sky Blue, who is a solid player. I think with those two, if they get pretty good minutes, I think they could contribute in a positive way for them. And then I don't know. I think their central defender in Catley and Alloway, I think that could be a really good pairing. I mean, they already have, I think, pretty good chemistry. That would be very exciting to see what they can do together, and if they, get minutes together. So, yeah, a lot of very solid pieces for this Pride team. So I'm excited.
Yeah, the thing is, you have players who have played together before on other teams. Particularly with all the Flash players that are here, but even some who have played together on other teams before they got drafted through expansion and things like that. And obviously with a new team of entirely new people, you have to build chemistry from the ground up. But I'm sure it helps that some of these players do have experience playing with each other on either for club or country or previous experience. So I think ultimately it's been really interesting. They seem to in preseason, and again I take this with a grain of salt because they did play Florida and did really well, but their preseason schedule hasn't been obviously entirely challenging, but they have obviously done really well. They've been scoring goals and things like that. I really just am looking forward to the first week of the season just to see when we get into actual against other NWSL teams what they look like as a whole. they do have an incredible group of players. Just you kind of look down and like their most names, if you look, are fairly recognizable. One person I wanted to mention, and Jackie and I talked about this right before the show. I totally missed this announcement of signing, or I just missed that this had happened. But apparently they signed Jose Belanger from Canada. I didn't know that had happened, but that's showing up on the roster. And Tom Sermanni talked about her a little bit in a recent interview about preseason and how preseason was going. But they do have a lot of really both NWSL players, like previous NWSL players, like local players, and they have a variety of international players also, or players with other international experience. They have Monica and the Australians and Caitlin Kyle, like you talked about, Leanne Sanderson. So they have a pretty diverse group of individuals. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they do as the season goes on. Or the season starts. It hasn't even gone on yet. It starts next weekend, though, for any of you who are wondering. So, I mean, let's just talk about somewhere we think they may land. And if you guys have any other comments as we talk about where we think they'll finish this year, feel free to mention that at that time. They haven't, according to their actual roster, don't have any of their draft picks on there yet. I'm assuming that they'll sign some of them. They only have 17 players on their actual listed roster at the moment. But you assume we know they have more in their preseason camp as per previous releases. So rosters actually need to be finalized Monday. So we'll really get to see not finalized, but cut or built to that 18 to 21 people. So we'll find out very soon from all the teams who is be on the probably starting game day, opening day roster, if you will. But yeah, let's talk about a little bit. It's kind of hard because we haven't seen them really play before, but where we think they're going to finish in the season. We'll start with Jackie first. Where do you think the Pride are going to finish in this year's league?
Yeah, this is a question I've gotten a few times, and I think I've given a different answer every time. So, I mean, judging just purely on the roster and the kind of players they're bringing in, plus, I know how Sermanni, he can have success with this team. I'm gonna say top 5. Like I said, Houston last week. I just don't see them, not being at the top of the table with this kind of group. But then again, I also feel like they might struggle a bit this season. But it's tough to call, obviously. But I'm thinking they should be in the top 5 with the kind of talent they have on this roster.
All right, so top 5 for Jackie. Jen, where do you think they're going to end up?
Well, you actually made a good point, Courtney, about the chemistry and having players that have played together before, dealing with the chemistry, because I think that was one of the actually key reasons why the Flash in 2013 had so much success, because you had all these groups of players that had played together in previous years, not just with the Flash, but with other clubs. So that could be a positive in their favor. If that doesn't go well, I think this team will struggle. I think it's always one of the things about an expansion team. You never know how they're going to do. And I go back and forth every day. I'm like, man, this team's going to be really seriously, I'm like, one day I'm like, man, this team's going to be really good. They're going to challenge for thing. And next day I'm like, yeah, this team's not looking so great. They're probably going to be a bottom 3. I reserve fully the right to change my mind once the final rosters happen.
Of course, absolutely.
Because I never really want to make solid predictions until I see who's going to be on each roster. Mm-hmm. Right now, I have them at 6th. I think,
Right.
if some of the rumors are true, like some individuals have been suggesting that there may be an increase in the playoff spots. Don't know how I feel about that if it happens, but I think that seventh if the chemistry isn't there. I think fifth if everything goes well and they don't miss their players too much for the Olympics. So I'll average it out and say sixth.
Hey, you make a really good point. The season starts next weekend, and no one has seen the actual rules of the season. What changed? What? I'm sure things have changed. I've heard, you said rumors that there have been some changes. There will be some changes to the rules or rosters or anything just the seed league rules for this year. We don't know, so maybe I guess we'll find out. I feel like that information will obviously be forthcoming next week. I would probably assume early in the week. If anything, probably expect roster news and any announcements from the NWSL, either if not on the same day, probably within a day or so. That's just my guess because I don't think they were going to wait till mid to end week when the season starts to be like, oh, hey, by the way. But again, it is NWSL, and sometimes not to NWSL is great, obviously, but sometimes as far as news goes, is a little bit delayed with getting information out, I guess. But hopefully we'll have it. We'll know rosters on Monday, so that'll be helpful. But yeah, this is so hard for me too. There's so many factors that go into this. Everyone's always like Alex Morgan, yeah, but and she's been great for the national team. Well, she's been good for the national team, but it's Alex Morgan has also been one of the most inconsistent people. Granted, she has had injury issues, but especially with club, sometimes she's just very club Alex Morgan and country Alex Morgan are very different sometimes in a lot of different ways. So that's something to keep in mind. There are other people who can score goals, which is good, but I don't know if it's going to be one of those cases of there's so many great players, will they gel together and be effective? Oh, this is so hard. I'm going to say 4 just because I think I've already put somebody in the 4th position, but I'm just going to keep bumping people around. It's fine. I say they probably finish 4th. Again, I will probably be dreadfully wrong, but we'll see. And, we'll find out. And regardless, it's exciting to have a new team in the league. And there have been fans that have shown up just from looking at the Pride Snapchat and stuff like that. There have been fans that have come out in droves just for preseason games and are the Orlando City fans are incredible, and they seem to have really embraced the Pride. So that's going to be really exciting. It should be a good atmosphere, at least in a good fan support. So that's what I'm really looking forward to, is to seeing once the games start, what the attendance is like, how the atmosphere is, what the support is like for the team. But either way, it's exciting to have, again, a 10th team, plus now we're even numbered teams, and we don't have to have this random weird schedule of someone's on an off every week because there's 9 teams, and math is, makes sense, and you can't play 9 teams every week in the league. So at least we have an even number of teams now. Yay. But anyways, great. That's the Pride. Let us know your thoughts on the Pride, folks. We're going to do kind of a quick, and again, it's not going to go too long, do a quick women's national team recap / preview. I'm probably just going to change around questions that I ask you guys. Just so if you have anything, if I don't ask you a certain question and you have anything you wanted to chime in with, feel free to, but for the sake of not being here for another hour. National team game, that was, they obviously won by a lot. It was kind of goals upon goals upon goals. We're going to start with Jackie. What were your expectations going into the national team game against Colombia?
Well, we'd only played them 3 times before, to a score of 3-0, 3-0, and 2-0. But for some reason, I felt like we'd score a lot of goals this game. My prediction was actually 7-0. So pretty close. But I think for the most part,
I think it was 7-0, wasn't it?
It was 7-0. You
got it. You nailed it on the head. No, you nailed it on the head.
Oh, okay. Well, my bad. Yeah. So I was surprised that a few players, a certain amount of minutes played, or how they performed, but expectations, score a lot of goals and have Alyssa Nayer in goal, so you know which one she didn't do.
Gosh, which
Yeah.
is a whole nother thing, but we'll go over. Speaking about lineup concerns, Jen, what were your thoughts on the lineup?
Well, I kind of threw out a few F-bombs and other choice words that I won't repeat when I saw Allie
Good,
Long's
thank
name in the
you.
lineup. Sorry, Portland Long fans, not a fan of her.
I know we're gonna get all this hate now from the Allie Long fans. Jeez,
Hey,
that's okay.
They're entitled to their opinion, as
That's
am I.
true.
My opinion is I'm not a fan of hers. And I think a lot of that comes from at the end of the 2013 season, after she had been kind of, I guess, at best lackluster, at worst really poor, and she's coming out kind of more or less whining about not getting a call up after that season. I'm like, what on earth in that season makes you think you deserve a call up? You didn't impress people at all. And I wasn't the only one that felt that way. So, not happy about seeing her in the lineup. I would have preferred maybe Mewis starting that game and Long coming in the second half for Haran, who, yeah, we'll get to that later. But also would have liked to have seen Alyssa Nair because, it is her hometown. Of course, that doesn't mean much with Ellis, and she didn't play Ashlyn Harris in Orlando.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those were kind of the two main concerns. Everything else was pretty much what I expected, and yeah. And I expected not quite that big of a blowout. I thought it was going to be 5-0 at best, because I knew that even though we had struggled against them during the World Cup, this was a team that hadn't practiced together in months, and we were still crappy at when we played them at the World Cup. This is a different team now, so yeah, went better than I expected.
Yeah, I think going into the game I wasn't really sure what to expect. I think within the first, until they scored that first goal, I really didn't think it was going to be that big of a blowout. They got to almost 30-minute mark before they scored a goal, and I really at that point was like, okay, this maybe won't be a big blowout, because we were a good chunk into the first half, and they didn't make it. They didn't make a good and score a goal. So and I think both sides it was kind of chippy, but they weren't really dominating Colombia in that first part of the game, and I was like, all right, cool, maybe it won't be a blowout. And then they scored one goal, and I'll just open up the nose goals on goals on goals. So there's that. I'm going to ask you both this question quickly. Who are some players? I know we usually go by first half, second half, but just overall, and feel free to point out whatever examples you'd like from the game. But overall, what players do you think did really well in the game, and then what players do you think maybe did not perform so well? We'll start with Jen first.
Players who I thought performed really well. Yeah, I know I just ragged on her, but yes, Allie Long did do well. The surprise of me and several other people. She kept the ball well, was a big part of keeping it moving around. Did score twice, although you could argue that she kind of stole those from Carly, since if she had missed, Carly was right there to put it in. So, yeah, not cool, Allie. Stealing goals from Carly is never cool with me. She was one when Mewis came in the second half. I thought it was an upgrade over Haran. Thought she did really well playing that pure defensive role, letting Carly and Allie go further up. As far as players who didn't impress me, I thought Kelly O'Hara had a really rough game. She looked off, a lot of turnovers. There was even that moment in the second half where Colombia had a breakaway. I can't remember the player's name, where Kelly O'Hara was caught ball watching. I mean, you can just see her sneak right past O'Hara, and she's watching the ball instead of her player. So that was a big mistake.
And yet she keeps getting starts over Krieger.
Yeah, I've kind of
I'm
given up.
just saying she's been she's had some good games, but still, again, inconsistent in the last couple of games.
I just don't get it. I don't know if Ellis is giving KO enough rope to hang herself so she doesn't play her again. I don't know why that is. I'm not Jill Ellis. I'm not a mind reader. So, yeah, KO, like I said, Haran continues to just look slow in her speed, slow in her decision making, just not really that impressive. And I also thought until her goal that Mallory Pugh kind of had a quiet half, And I will say this, Kristen Press's goal in the second half was beautiful. Everything before and after that was crap. She was crap, kind of frantic, getting the ball like, oh my God, what do I do with it? What do I do with it? What do I do with it? And end up losing it. And said that somewhere else and got ripped apart by some overtight press hands like, oh my God, you don't know what you're talking about. She was awesome, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, whoa, chill out. I'm making an observation. It's my opinion. Just admit that your girl had a bad game aside from one great goal. It's not going to kill you. So those are the ones that I thought were... Oh, yeah, and I wasn't happy with Carly's play for most of Olympic qualifying and in She Believes, but she was on this game, It was probably one of her best performances since the Ireland game. So that was my good and bad of this one.
Awesome. Jackie, who were some people that stood out to you, maybe not stood out, or stood out maybe for a not great way?
Yeah, I'd have to say Kelly O'Hara. I know she's been getting some time, but she has been a little inconsistent, and which is not unusually like her. So I don't know what's going on. But I'm a huge KO fan, so KO fans don't come at me. But yeah, KO had a tough game. Haran, I thought she did look really slow, like you mentioned, Jen, and I completely agree. She had an off game. Yeah, Press, once again, I can agree with some of those talking points. Her goal, obviously was very, very nice, but just inconsistent is probably the big word I would describe several players, but some good players. Hope Solo got the shutout, so her in the back line, shutout's always great. I thought I was happy to see Mewis come in. I mean, I was hoping she'd get the start, but Long got the start. I thought Long played okay. It's been a while since she was in camp. I think 2014 was her last cap. She did okay. So obviously scoring is always a nice touch, but overall I don't know. I mean, I hope Mewis gets the start in the next game. And yeah, Mallory Pugh, I think. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Mallory, but yeah, I think it's just a little bit's catching up to her, I think, as far as the speed of play. And Colombia, they were without Lady A, so I don't know. She's a big part, but I think Colombia, they played really well for the first half hour. They played really well. So a good game, but also not quite a good game from some players.
Yeah, I agree with Colombia playing well the first half hour. Things got kind of rough on both ends, as I think we've unfortunately come to expect between end of game with Colombia. But there were a lot of. I know I don't often give a lot of. We often take this time on the show to criticize the refs for being terrible, but I actually think that the ref on the other night did a really good job. And we always crap on the refs, so I'm gonna say something nice, even though it's not really what we're talking about. But there was a lot of attempted, I guess, embellishing of or arguing about calls and things like that from Colombia initially, and she kind of just shut it down and didn't let it happen, and kind of on both sides they did a really good job. And I think when you play Colombia, sometimes things get a little bit chippy on both ends, and I think that it started to happen, but it could have probably been a lot worse if it hadn't been controlled. So just a little side note, because we're always like, oh, the refs are terrible. You know, I'm glad that their one was one that was actually decent for once. Yay. Anyways, I agree with most of what you said. I'm not really going to go in detail. I am still not convinced about Lindsay Horan. Like, I know she's a talented player. Like, I get this. I know this just from her experience overseas and such, but I have yet to really see anything with the national team that's making me be like, you're great. Maybe there's still time, but I don't really get it. But which is again a hard disconnect because I know she's really talented. Like my brain knows this, but watching the games, I'm like, eh. And like would have again much rather have had Mewis start, not only because I'm like didn't cover the flash and stuff like that, but like I think compared to some Mewis had some rough games potentially like previously before the game against Colombia, but I think she was very much improved this game. She made a lot less errors, seemed more confident on the field. So I think she did really well. Also, not a huge Ali Long fan, and like her overall play, I don't really know that it was necessarily like the best play on the team. But yeah, you score goals, so like I'm going to give you credit for scoring goals, and that's ultimately like the point of the game. So good job there. I think it is. Those are her first two international goals, I believe. So. That's always cool to see that, regardless of how you feel about a player, when someone gets not only their first international goal but gets another one. That's always good, and we'll see what happens with her, but it is what it is. And you guys said pretty much everything else I'm going to say, so I'm not going to echo or repeat it all again because there's no point. As we mentioned before, the team plays again tomorrow. We'll just go quickly. Jen, what are your I guess expectations going into the next game?
Well, it's hard to say. I'm kind of hoping for more of the same from the U.S. I really liked what we showed in this last one, so I'm hoping for more of that. I'm hoping to see Sammy Mewis start, instead of either Horan or Long. If Morgan Bryan is healthy, maybe start those two at the dual six. I don't know. Maybe give Kristen Press a run out as a starter. I know she's been kind of benched lately, but give the Press fanboys what they want. Let her start and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And if Alex Morgan and or Morgan Bryan aren't 100%, don't start them. Mm-hmm. Especially considering the weather out there. Yeah, it was snowing today. We don't want either of them getting injured, even worse.
Mm-hmm.
So,
agreed.
Watch on that. And also, please, Jill Ellis, do not start Hope Solo tomorrow. We do not need her starting. Give Ashlyn Harris or Alyssa. I don't know. I don't care. Flip a coin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Heads it's Alyssa, tails it's Ashlyn. But let one of them start.
Mm-hmm.
Especially after what happened to poor Aaron McLeod. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
That could happen at any time. I mean, look at what happened before the 2008 Olympics. We lost Abby in the final game. It could happen at any time. In a position that important, I know other teams have done it before, but it would be nice to get a little bit more experience for our backups, and this would be a perfect game to do it.
Yeah, I agree. I think all of these, like, until it gets right before the Olympics, I guess, like, but these games don't mean anything. Like, these are, especially so far out from the Olympics, like, in April still, they, like, play other people, play other goalkeepers. Like, if it gets closer to the Olympics, you have a little some send-off games, you want to play them then, like, you want to play your, starters or whatever, then great. Do so carefully, but, like, right now, it's, like, just anyone. Like, I usually am, like, when's Ashlyn going to play? Even now, I will be happy to see anyone who's not Hope Solo in the goal. Not because I don't like Hope Solo, but again, anyone. Just this is a perfect time, and just give someone else some minutes, please and thank you. Anyways, mini rant over. Jackie, what are your expectations for the game tomorrow?
Well, I'm expecting a 5-0 U.S. win, and also I would love to see Alyssa Nayer in goal. I'm a huge Hope Solo fan. Everyone knows it, but I really love what Alyssa Nair can do, and this is a perfect game for, Ellis is probably not going to do it, but I think Nair is a phenomenal keeper, and, in the weather against Colombia, I don't see why not. I'd also love to see Sonnet and Engen in for JJ and Brune on the back line, and then Heyo and maybe Press get the start. I mean, I think we could all use a little more Heyo in our lives, so hopefully Ella sees this and she listens.
And the only thing I have to say, like that I haven't said already, that you guys haven't said, is I would like to see an outside back combination other than KO and Kling. I don't even care. Like, I'm not gonna say Hinkle because she was injured and wasn't with the team. So hey, fine, take that out. Put Krieger and KO, Krieger and Klingenberg. I don't care. Just something else. Like, essentially put Krieger in somewhere, please and thank you.
Put KO at left back and wait, I forgot it's Jill. She'll never do it, but bench Megan Klingenberg one game, and I'll say everyone knows I'm a massive Carly Lloyd fan. Can we get one game without her getting any time? Just one, please, Jill, please.
That's probably not going to happen. I mean,
I know it's not going to happen, but I just want to see the team with one game without her getting any time to see how it looks. Just one, please, Jill.
I don't know about a full game, but I did like that. I did like that game that, like, it was essentially like Krieger and somebody else were like not babysitting, but like were like the moms of the team.
Carly it was the Puerto Rico game in qualifying.
And then Carly eventually went off though, so it was like
she went off in like halftime. It was like, basically those two babysitting all the rookies.
Like Krieger and somebody else at halftime was just like all the rookies on the team. I'm not saying we have to do that, but like I would love to see just a bunch of different people in different positions. I think that was so entertaining. I was like, oh, it's like all the youngins, and then there's like there's Krieger and Carly.
You need to have somebody there to do the babysitting.
True.
I mean, hopefully there. So.
Right. So all right. So we're just kind of gonna wrap it up there. The U.S. plays Colombia again tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, on ESPN.
That's good.
ESPN.
We'll be getting the awesome Julie Foudy.
Yep, Foudy tweeted today about it being cold and whatnot, so that'll be excellent as always. So please make sure you check that out. We'll be back on Monday with another UFC. What am I talking about? UFC. USWNT review. I don't even know what my life is right now. Another national team review, and our final spotlight. We're going to spotlight the two-time champs, FC Kansas City, on Monday. So make sure you check us out. Same time as always, 6:30 Eastern. And then also, it's in the description of the video, so go down there and A, follow all our social media, B, join our NWSL fantasy team, like group. First of all, if you're not playing NWSL Fantasy League, you should be, because it's super fun. And also join. Well, it's fun, and it also kind of like feel like. It also brings, like, when you're watching the game, you're someone on your team does something weird. You're like, oh no, like, dang it, my defender got a red card. Oh crap! Or like, yay, they scored all the goals. So.
And this is for me personally. It also kind of helps me keep track of teams other than the Flash.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, well, I can't just pick all Flash players, so maybe I could pick this player because she's getting this many points, or this team has a favorable matchup. Helps me keep track of follow the league just a little bit better, keep track of all the players.
Yeah, I think not even that, but like maybe you're someone who only watches like your favorite team's games. That's cool. Like, thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting the league. Rock on. But I find myself like even more invested. I try to watch all the games anyway, so even more invested watching the other games just to see how like my people are doing. But it's just fun. It's just fun to do. Like Jen said, it does help me kind of follow along like what's going on. Also like other players and things like that. So the link's in the bottom. No password required. Just sign up. Once you're situated in the league, you can join our group. For all off the post viewers or friends or whoever, share it around. So please check that out, and we'll be back on Monday night. So we will see you all then. Wave, everybody. We have to do the wave still. All right. Have a good night, everyone.